What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Punchlytics. Today, let's get started with UFC potentially signing with Netflix in 2026, following ESPN's disastrous technical difficulties during the UFC 313 pay-per-view. Speculation that the promotion could be moving over to Netflix in 2026 is through the roof. Before we continue, make sure to leave a like on the video to support the channel. As you likely know, 2025 is the final year of the UFC's broadcasting deal with ESPN, which was signed back in 2018. In recent months, Dana White has repeatedly acknowledged that the UFC could be heading to another network, or several, next year. But since Netflix is now a broadcast partner of WWE, which has the same parent company as UFC, many believe it's only a matter of time before we see UFC on the streaming giant. As noted, many US-based customers were unable to watch the pay-per-view for last week's UFC 313 event. Not long after the card, Eric Rohr of the New York Post reported that UFC executives were absolutely furious over the technical difficulties ESPN had. Then, in a follow-up video on the New York Post's YouTube channel, Rohr spoke at length about the growing tensions between ESPN and UFC. According to Rohr, ESPN is unhappy with the pay-per-view numbers. But for UFC, the sign-up process for ESPN Plus is a major issue, not to mention the ongoing technical problems.
I talk to people who are close to fighters who say pay-per-view numbers are way down, right? Why is that? Well, and this has been the case since ESPN started, but if you look at prior to launching with ESPN versus now, it is a lot harder to purchase the pay-per-view. Why? ESPN, you have to have an ESPN Plus subscription, which is $10 a month just to purchase the pay-per-view. So there's red tape. It's automatically more difficult. Now you have to sign up for a subscription, then you also have to make a separate purchase for 80 bucks. So big problems there. The fighters getting less in pay-per-view points. That's almost like that part of their contract is almost becoming pointless because the pay-per-view buys are so much less. Like the UFC gets 300,000 pay-per-view buys as a buy-in from ESPN. There's no way that ESPN is getting 300,000 pay-per-view buys out of every pay-per-view.
Rohr then reported that a source told him the UFC will almost certainly sign with Netflix. But there is one major hurdle: how pay-per-views will be incorporated into a Netflix subscription, assuming they will need to be.
When I put that article out on Sunday night, I got a call from somebody who's pretty well connected, and he said, almost definitely Netflix. Almost definitely. I would venture to guess that the UFC will do anything in their power to go to Netflix. For me, I think that Netflix, and they're gonna have to be careful too, right? Netflix is gonna pay a ton of money for the UFC. They have to be careful not to piss off their existing user base by upping the price of Netflix from whatever it is now. Is it 30 bucks a month to $50 a month? That's gonna piss off their existing user base. My prediction is that the UFC will sign on with Netflix starting at the beginning of 2026, and that the UFC will have a different package similar to ESPN Plus, but only UFC. Think about it as like UFC Plus.
In a post that has since been deleted, the UFC's Terrence McKinney noted that he would welcome the promotion moving to Netflix. I can't wait to be able to watch UFC on Netflix every Saturday. Everyone can tune in and just watch the fights. All my family can watch me now. Everyone has Netflix. $15 a month for just UFC plus $85 pay-per-views that lag and crash, ain't it? Following Rohr's report, Brendan Schaub posted the following on social media. This comes not long after Schaub opined that ESPN deliberately sabotaged the UFC 313 pay-per-view as a way to send a message to the UFC. During his podcast, Schaub said, "The whole ESPN Plus pay-per-view not working. They're in negotiations for their broadcast rights right now. If you think that wasn't on purpose, you're out of your mind." That's ESPN, who doesn't give a flying expletive about the UFC, really. They're in turmoil. But if you don't think that's a flex from them, I've never had issues with them. And now all of a sudden, during rights negotiations, issues just pop up? That's someone going, "Oh really? You want to play hardball?" This is what your numbers will look like without us. But what's your take on all this? Do you think ESPN deliberately sabotaged the UFC 313 pay-per-view? And how much would you be willing to pay Netflix each month if the subscription included UFC pay-per-views? Ilia Topuria made a mistake, moving up to lightweight division. The countdown to the official announcement that Ilia Topu is set to battle Islam Makhachev continues, but we're still hearing from pundits and fighters who aren't convinced that El Matador should be moving up to 155 just yet. For some time, Tapu has been open about his intention to move up to lightweight to pursue that division's title. However, since Tudija had only defended the featherweight crown once, when he dominated Max Holloway in October, the general expectation was that he'd stay at featherweight for now. In fact, following that fight, Tudija stated that he would welcome a rematch with Alexander Volkanovski. So, when Dana White recently announced that Tudija has vacated the featherweight title and is moving up to lightweight, more than a few people were surprised. That news also sparked extensive speculation that Tudija will be booked to fight Makhachev next. However, as noted, not everyone is fully convinced that this is the right move for Tudija at this time. Case in point, Matt Serra recently stated that he would have liked to see El Matador remain at 145 for now.
I think it's going to be interesting to see him at 155. I would have liked to see him at 145 a little bit more, because I feel like he had some big wins, obviously, with Volkanovski and Max Holloway, but I think it might be a little premature to go up. Not that he couldn't do it. I'm sure he could do it, but why not be a savage and clear out that division even more? You got Diego Lopez. You got other guys down there that are dangerous.
It was an interesting point, and others, like Daniel Cormier, have also questioned whether Tudija will be as effective against larger lightweights like AEV. However, one person who has no doubt that Tapu will claim the UFC's lightweight crown is his teammate, Guram Khatasi. Recently, Khatasi referred to Makhachev as Tudija's next victim, while also acknowledging that he expects the battle to be epic. What do you think? Should Tudija have stayed at featherweight a bit longer? And do you see him ending Makhachev's reign? Justin Gaethje provides update on injury. Not surprisingly, Justin Gaethje didn't emerge unscathed from his memorable war with Rafael Fiziev. But while his injury looks nasty, it doesn't seem like it will keep the lightweight contender sidelined for too long. Gaethje is coming off a decision win over Fiziev at UFC 313 last week, in a fight that delivered plenty of fireworks, just as everyone predicted. It marked the second time Gaethje defeated Fiziev, having previously beaten the renowned striker by majority decision in 2023. Immediately after the fight, Gaethje was captured on video reacting to his toe injury. Later, in another Instagram post, the highlight shared an image along with the following quote: "They already showed you my feet on television, so here they are 1 week after the fight. This is from dragging my feet on the canvas when I threw punches. You do not want to be an ultimate fighter." Yeah, Gaethje's toes look rough and that situation can't be comfortable at all. Michael Chiesa reacted to the injury, writing, "Canvas burns are the worst. You can't wear socks, it hurts in the shower, and you can't sleep with your sheets touching them, or else the burns scab to your sheets. Not fun." The good news is, Gaethje should be ready to fight again in the not-too-distant future if needed. The big question now is, who will Gaethje fight next? There has been talk about granting him a title shot, since he and the champion have never fought. But all signs point to Islam Makhachev fighting Ilir Tudija next. That could mean Gaethje might face Arman Tsarukyan next. Do you want to see that fight? Alex Pereira accused of cheating at UFC 313. Mamet's team is accusing Alex Pereira of cheating at UFC 313. In a recent interview with Ushataika, originally in Russian but later translated online, Magomed's coach, Sukrab Magomedov, made some shocking accusations. According to Magomedov and his team, they are accusing Alex Pereira of greasing. Here's what they had to say. "When Magomed pushed him to the fence near our corner, it seemed to me that Pereira was greased with something." Aniv said afterward that he smelled like he had some ointment on and was sticky. The sweat didn't flow off his body. It stayed on. That's what it looked like on his body, too. That has been said about Brazilians a lot. Glover Teixeira has really experienced stuff like this. What are your thoughts on the situation? Do you think Sukrab Magomedov is right? We're not saying it's 100% true, but these accusations from Magomedov and his team are definitely making waves.